Well, that lasted for about 2 weeks. And then I got really, really, really bored. How bored? I dug a big hole in the yard. I mean, it was a big hole. It was about 8 feet across and 8 feet deep. And I used an old satellite dish as the roof, and I put hay bales on top of that, and then bark on top of that to shingle it. And then I dug an underground tunnel into the hole, and okay, when you start digging holes like this, you're really bored. And so I wasn't in school, and I didn't have a job, and I was thinking to myself, what am I going to do? You know, I have to do something. What is it that I really enjoy the most? What do I really love? And ultimately, for me, the answer was reading and stories and daydreaming about flying on dragons and fighting monsters. And so I decided to try to write the sort of story that I would enjoy reading myself. And the initial idea that I had was of a young boy, a young man, finding a dragon egg out in the wilderness. And as soon as I had that idea, I thought, yes, this is good. And I started asking myself questions. I said, what sort of a land would a dragon come from? Who would find a dragon egg out in the middle of nowhere? Who else would be looking for a dragon egg? Because, of course, dragon eggs aren't that common. And by asking myself those questions, I was able to build up the world and the story of the inheritance cycle. I never expected any of this to happen. I thought at the most that if I wrote Eragon, and I wasn't even sure I could write Eragon, I thought at the most that maybe my parents would read the book, and if I was really, really lucky, my sister. Fortunately for me, when I gave the manuscript to my parents, and they did finally get a chance to look at it, they said, you know what, we really think you've got something here, and we think it's worth putting energy into to see if we can self-publish it and take it out on the road and see what people think. And that was really the beginning of this whole journey of traveling around with the books and talking to people and doing events like this. Although when I started, I was doing my events actually in a medieval costume, which involved a billowy red swordsman shirt, billowy black pantaloons, black knee-high lace-up leather boots, a pirate sash around my waist, and a black beret on top. So it was rather flamboyant, but it got lots of attention, which was the idea. And I had a great time traveling around. You know, I met some amazing people. I met one young man who actually tried to sell me a lizard. And it turned out that he raised lizards and sold them to raise money for his family. I actually once had a guy with a self-published edition. He came up to my table and he said, I'm not really into reading, but I'll buy the book if you beat me at arm wrestling. I really wanted to sell books. So we did the arm wrestling, and fortunately for me, I actually got the upper hand, and he read the book, and turned out he enjoyed it. So all sorts of great experiences like that, with booksellers, librarians, and of course, readers themselves. And then ultimately, the book got picked up by Random House, and then Eldest came out, and Brissinger, and now Inheritance. And again, I've just had some amazing experiences along the way. When Eldest was about to come out, right, I was at home, and I was playing this video game called, what was it? Jedi Knight Academy 2. It's a Star Wars game, as you might guess. It was a really good game. And so I'm sitting there, I was playing online, and I'm dueling all these various, people all around the world. We're dueling with lightsabers, which is great fun. And someone logs into the game using the name Eragon. And of course, I had to fight him. And the horrible thing is, it turned out he was better than me. And he beat me. And across the screen it said, "You have been killed by Eragon." So stuff like that. In fact, and then there was the time when I was on book tour for my last book for Brissinger. Well, I guess I can't say that anymore. It isn't my last book. Inheritance is my last book. For my penultimate book. For Brissinger, I was in Chicago, and I had a young woman come through my book signing line, and on her arm, she was carrying a sugar glider. Now, I don't know how many of you know what a sugar glider is, but they're a small marsupial, and they look like a flying squirrel, but they're very, very, very cute. So I looked at her and I said, "Oh, that's a really nice pet. Do you mind if I pet it?" And she says, "Oh no, go right ahead. He doesn't bite." And you know, I thought, okay, she knows what she's talking about. It's her pet. So I reach out and I start, you know, stroking the animal's head, and it's very cute and very soft and very nice. And it looks at me, and ever so gently, it takes its hand-like paws. They have hands kind of like a raccoon. And it wrapped its fingers around my finger. And then it started gnawing on me. And there's blood running down my hand. And I'm sitting there with gritting my teeth saying, "Would you please stop your pet from trying to eat me?" But the great thing about it is that ever after, I've been able to say that on book tour, I was gnawed on by a marsupial. Which I don't think that's something most people can say. So, you know, that was a good thing. Overall, though, you know, this experience of writing the series has been really, really amazing. And actually, in the writing of the books, I've tried to have, you know, I've poured my heart and soul into these books. And I've tried to have the characters dealing with a lot of the questions that I've dealt with in my life, although I've never actually had to get in a sword fight to, you know, against an Eragon or something like that. But I've tried to have the characters deal with questions that have meant a lot to me, and I've also tried to have a lot of fun while writing this series. As some of you may know, for example, the character of Angela the herbalist was actually based on my sister Angela. And fortunately, she has a good sense of humor about it, or I wouldn't be standing here right now. Where is she? I'll tell you in a minute, but hold on. Let's see, what else? Well, and actually, if you've read the first book, Angela's argument about frogs and toads is a real argument she had. I didn't make that up. You know, and I've slipped little things like that into all of the books. Again, trying to have fun, trying to keep myself entertained, and of course, keep you guys entertained as well. And really, it has been a wonderful, wonderful experience. This last book has probably been the most intense experience of my life finishing it. One, because it's the size of the book. As you might have noticed, it's rather large. And in fact, I didn't think it was going to be quite that large. In fact, going way back when, I thought it was going to be, you know, only a trilogy. The series was going to be a trilogy. So I thought, okay, I'm up to Brissinger. I'm going to write one more book and I'll be done. And then I got a couple hundred pages in and I thought, you know, I'm not getting any closer to the end. And then I got a little bit further and I thought, you know, this is going to be a 2,000-page book. So I said, okay, we'll split it into two. And we split it into two, and so we got Brissinger, and then we got the last book, Inheritance. And when I started Inheritance, I was worried. I thought, you know, I'm not sure I've got enough material for a full-length book here. You know, is this really going to be long enough? And my editor just kind of laughed at me. And she said, you know, go ahead, write the book, you'll see. So I got into Inheritance, and it kept getting longer and longer and longer and longer. But I think every word serves a purpose in this book. And I hope you'll feel the same way. So one, the length of the book was challenging, but ultimately the biggest challenge with this book was that I wanted to do justice to the characters and to the world. And that was really my goal. I know that so many people really feel strongly about this story, and I feel strongly about this story, and that was really what I felt was my big challenge going forward, is I had to do justice to the characters. And I hope you'll feel both surprised and satisfied with what I've done in this book. I have to tell you, when I was doing the last week of editing on this book, I was actually here in New York City at the Random House offices. And it was pretty funny because in that last week, as I was finishing the book, this series, this story that I'd worked on for almost 13 years, New York City got hit by both a hurricane and an earthquake. And I remember my editor, Michelle, she said, you know, Christopher, you really have to finish this before any natural disasters occur. So finish it we did, and here we are. And before I go any further, actually,